It is early morning on January 1st before daybreak. The Tongye Shinmyo in Yangyang, Gangwon Province is busy preparing for a service to the East Sea God. The service has contained the wishes of Koreans for the past 600 years. The hopes and admiration of Koreans for the East Sea lie in this ritual. At the Tongye Shinmyo, services are still held on the first day of each year and in the summer when the beaches are open. The services are no longer conducted by kings, but they are still held with sincere respect for the East Sea God. The Tongye Shinmyo is surrounded by pine trees and quiet and peaceful, like a mother's womb. This shrine was different from others in that it was not for personal use. It was an official shrine used exclusively for national services to the East Sea God. Throughout the Joseon dynasty, the nation prayed to the East Sea God every lunar February and August for plentiful harvests, plentiful fish, peace, and prosperity. At the services, the king personally carried out the rituals. The king sought peace and prosperity and to unify the people through these services to the gods. During the Joseon dynasty, religious services were categorized into large services and medium services. The East Sea Shrine in Yangyang, Gangwon Province, the West Sea Shrine in Pungcheon, Hwanghae Province, and the South Sea Shrine in Naju, or the current Yeongam, were chosen to host national medium services for the gods of the three seas. The Tongye Shinmyo is the only national religious service site in South Korea. It is impossible to know the exact location of the South Sea Shrine because there are no remaining structures from that shrine. On the other hand, the monument built when the Tongye Shinmyo was restored in 1800 by Royal Secret Inspector Kwon Jun and Gangwon Province Governor Nam Gong-chol still stands today. The inscription on the monument is a good demonstration of the Korean way of looking at the East Sea. It says, "The sea is served like the king," and that there is nothing greater than water for making the world abundant. It also says the people must consider the sea gods like parents. The East Sea God is equated to the king and parents, beings of utmost respect in Confucian culture. There are many records of the Tongye Shinmyo. In the Shinjin Dongguk Yeoji Seungnam, a geographical information book from the Joseon dynasty, it says services are held in the spring and autumn at the East Sea Shrine. The Tongye Shinmyo seems to have existed at least since the Goryeo dynasty. The shrine even appears in the History of Goryeo, a much earlier text described as being located in Yangju, or the current Yangyang. This shows that our history has always been together with the East Sea. On the calm waters of the sea, the cold winter sunshine gives off the illusion of warmth. Although Koreans are surrounded on three sides by water, it is the East Sea that captures their hearts. The pristine, beautiful scenery is equal to that found anywhere else in the world. That is why the Goryeo people, living a millennium ago, and the Shilla people, living 2 millennia ago, sought out this spot. The East Sea's history has always been intertwined with the history of Koreans. Tracing through the history of the sea, we meet the people of Shilla. Just 200 meters off the shore of Ponggilri in Gyeongju, there is a gigantic rocky island. What seems like an ordinary boulder is actually the Taewangam, the marine tomb of King Munmu. Why did the 30th king of Shilla choose to have his grave at sea? King Munmu, who with Kim Yu-shin succeeded in unifying the three kingdoms, was constantly besieged by the invasions and plundering of the Japanese. King Munmu felt uneasy leaving the throne before the country had become politically stable, and instructs monk Jiui as follows.
When I die, cremate my body according to Buddhist tradition and scatter my ashes into the East Sea. I will become a dragon and guard my country.
The king's servants followed his orders and cremated him at the Nungji Pagoda. His ashes were scattered around the Taewangam. After his death, an interesting story began spreading through the village here. When King Munmu became a dragon and ascended into the sky, there were 12 islands in the East Sea. The dragon hit those islands with its tail, and only Ulleung Island was left in the East Sea. The other islands all sank into the ocean and are there to this day, believe it or not. After his father's death, Munmu's son, Shinmun, built a commemorative temple called Gamun Temple about 1.5 kilometers from the coast. Only the site and 2 3-story stone pagodas remain today, but it is said that the temple was designed to let the seawater in below the main building, so that the late King Munmu could enter the temple as a dragon. On a high hill to the east of Gamun Temple is a spot called Igyondae. From here, one can get a full view of Taewangam. It is said King Shinmun came here often to bow to the dragon of the East Sea. Another famous story is passed down from this period. King Munmu, who became a dragon, and General Kim Yu-shin, who became a heavenly god, came together after death and sent a bamboo tree to an island in the East Sea. In the daytime, the bamboo split into 2, and at night reunited into 1. King Shinmun came to see the bizarre sight for himself. When he arrived, a dragon appeared. The king asked the dragon about the meaning of the bamboo. It replied,
One hand cannot make a sound on its own, but when 2 hands come together, they create a sound. This bamboo also creates sound by reuniting into 1. You will become a great king through this sacred sound.
The dragon disappeared after this prophecy. The king cut down the tree and made a flute, the sound of which drove away all of the kingdom's worries and problems. This flute came to be known as Manman Papa Shikjok. This story is an example of the desire of Koreans to protect their country. However, the deeply rooted love of Koreans for the East Sea and their respect for the ocean were attacked during the Japanese colonial period. After usurping power through the Ulsa Treaty, the Japanese treated all national Korean services as superstition and destroyed all of the country's altars, shrines, and Tangun shrines. The Tonghae Shinmyo was no exception. In the second year of Sunjong's reign, on December 26, 1908, the Japanese government ordered that the Tonghae Shinmyo be destroyed.
조정에서 내린 명이니 이걸 냉큼 치우거라.
Choi Jong-rak, the governor of Yangyang County, personally saw to it that the Tonghae Shinmyo stone monument was broken into 2 and buried, and that the temple was destroyed. The semi-annual services to the East Sea god that had continued for more than 1,000 years disappeared with the shrine. after, Chejongnak suddenly began coughing blood and died. People living in the region believe to this day that he was struck down by the fury of the EC god.
일제강점기 때 동해신묘가 철회된 이후에 여가 폐허지었었는데 광복 후 우리 야양 주민들이 옛 문화를 다시 찾고 또 그 천년 동안 지켜내려오던 성지를 되발굴하고 복원하고자 93년도에 이곳을 정리하다 보니까 남공철 관찰사가 세운 두 동강난 비석도 발견돼서 그것도 복원하고.
It seems that Donghae Shinmyo was destroyed as part of Japan's strategy to change the name of the EC to the Sea of Japan. Ever since Matteo Ricci labeled the EC the Sea of Japan on his map in 1602, Japan had been making international efforts to make the body of water known as such. As a result, the first edition of the 1929 Limits to Oceans and Seas released by the International Hydrographic Organization marked the EC as the Sea of Japan, and that name came to be internationally used. There was no way for Korea to protest without sovereignty, and the historical loss was huge. Korea is still making efforts to recover the name EC, and the EC Shrine is immensely important in that process because it serves as historical proof of the original name of the EC.
명칭이 동해신묘인데 여기에서 이쪽 바다를 동해라고 부르기 시작한 것은 이미 오래된 역사를 가지고 있습니다. 동해신묘가 설치되기 이전부터 삼국시대부터 이미 이곳 바다를 동해라고 불러왔고, 그러한 일상 용어에 따라서 이 제사 지내는 사당의 이름도 동해라고 동해신묘로 불려왔다고 할 수가 있습니다.
The EC has always been considered a source of life, as the origin of Koreans. However, Korea lost its connection to that sea when it lost its sovereignty, and now the sea is called by a different name by the world. We must now look at the EC with the sincerity of King Munmu, who desired to become a dragon after death to watch over the sea. The EC is the source of Koreans' livelihood, their spirit. It is a sea that must forever be protected.